The award is for the most valuable player. But what constitutes value? And who determines the level of such when there is no set formula to follow? From 1931 through 2019, the American and National Leagues combined to present 179 MVP awards named by the Baseball Writers Association. A breakdown of numbers reveals that in the time prior to the 1969 expansion and creation of divisions, teams who had that year's MVP on their roster made the postseason, which meant a World Series berth, 67% of the time. Since the 1969 expansion, teams with an eventual MVP made the playoffs 70% of the time. MVP-led teams won a World Series championship 37% of the time prior to 1969, and only 13% since. This mostly has to do with the increase in teams and games that make up postseason play. In the National League, regular season MVPs were found on teams that finished worse than second place on 12 occasions. I discovered other candidates for the award who also were not on frontrunner teams. Let's dive into some numbers. Chuck Klein's Phillies didn't fare that well in 1932, finishing in fourth place, only 2 games over 500 and 12 behind the pennant winner. He put together an incredible season though, leading the league in total bases for the third straight year, slugging, home runs, and steals. Lefty O'Doul led the majors in batting for an average Brooklyn team, and Mel Ott was his usual self, which was always unusually good. The Giants finished third, and these numbers surpassed pretty much any member of the first-place Cubs. In 1937, the Giants won the pennant, and the Cubs finished second. Their stars had very good seasons. But even though the Cardinals finished in fourth, 8 over 500 and 15 games back, it was Joe Ducky Medwick who delivered the big numbers. Winning a Triple Crown was just the start of one of the greatest campaigns ever recorded, as he also led the majors in hits and doubles. It was his third consecutive year leading the league in total bases, and he also led all National League players in at-bats and runs scored. He was so far ahead in just about every category, it seemed right to vote for his win. I question our next entrant, but take into account his competition wasn't very dominating. Ernie Lombardi's 1938 season saw his Reds finish in fourth, 14 games over and 6 games back. He set a single-season record of hitting into the most double plays that stood for 70 years. Johnny Mize had a little more oomph in his stats, but his team finished in 6th place. Archie Vaughan played on more of a winner, but the star fell short in many power categories. The pennant-winning Cubs got most of their power from 22-game winner Bill Lee. Johnny Mize had another great season in 1947, blowing away almost every other player in homers and RBI. In 586 at-bats, he struck out just 42 times. A rookie in Brooklyn caught everyone's attention by his style of play and helped the team to a pennant. The MVP winner was a Brave, though. Bob Elliott, playing on a third-place team that finished 18 over and 8 games back. He didn't lead the league in any category, though his average and OBP were high for the time. Hank Sauer, not a name that automatically springs to mind when discussing MVPs, yet here he was a winner in 1952. His Cubs finished 5th with an even record, yet 19.5 games behind the lead. He put up massive power numbers, though his OBP was low, as was his average. Ahead in the standings, Stan Musial and Jackie Robinson led baseball in other categories and had a deeper impact in helping their clubs challenge for a title. In the American League counterpart to this video, we touched on Jimmy Fox and him being a back-to-back MVP recipient. Ernie Banks is a part of that group, and in 1958 and 59 was the man in the National League. Sorry, Stan. In 58, Ernie led all of baseball in 4 major categories. He also had a fielding percentage of .985. The Cubs struggled though, finishing in 5th place, 10 games under and a whole 20 back. Willie Mays and Hank Aaron had higher averages in batting and on base, and their teams finished ahead of Chicago. 1959 brought just as much bad luck to the Cubs. Again, they took up the 5th spot in the standings, this time 6 games under and 13 back. Ernie's numbers were comparable to his previous campaign, but the second-place Braves had 2 players that tore up the league. Ed and Hank each had higher marks in batting, total bases, and OBP. So why Banks again? Here's another example of a bunch of good players having good all-around seasons, but nothing that particularly stood out. Roberto Clemente won the 1966 MVP, playing for a Pittsburgh team that finished in third, 18 games over and only 3 back. He hit career highs in many categories, but the team lost a late-season lead. Other league leaders like Rich Allen and Felipe Alou played on worse teams, so this may have been a case of picking the bigger name. A backwards example, a not-so-deserving winner for a winning club? The only time an MVP award was shared between 2 players was in 1979. Willie Stargell, who helped the Buccos win a World Series, didn't lead the league in any major category, and his batting and on-base averages were low. If you examine closer, so were the rest of the numbers listed here. Let's take a look at Keith Hernandez, the other winner. He led the majors in batting and doubles, and the league in runs scored. His Cardinals finished third, 10 games over yet 12 back of the division winners. Dave Winfield, whose Padres had been struggling, showed why he was deserving of a huge contract from the Yankees the following year, leading the National League in RBI and total bases. He had higher numbers than Willie across the board. Was this due to voters honoring a living legend in the twilight of his career? It was a surprise when the Cubs signed free agent Andre Dawson for the 1987 season. He delivered big-time numbers for his new contract, but was his contribution valuable? Here we go again with those Cubbies. The team finished last in the Eastern Division, 9 games under and 18.5 back of the Cardinals. Tim Wallach put up a solid season for the third-place Expos, and Will Clark, whose Giants won the West, challenged or bested Dawson in just about everything except total bases. Could that have been his downfall for not winning? How did the Rockies not perform better in 1997 with Larry Walker on their club? They ended the season in third place, 4 games over and 7 back. Larry hit for power and average, was always on base, and check out the slugging. Mike Piazza challenged for the batting title, which was eventually won by Tony Gwynn, and had similar numbers to the MVP winner, while helping the Dodgers reach second place. The winners in the Central were the Astros, thanks in a major way to Jeff Bagwell. Though not a league leader and compiling an average batting average, he also hit consistently for power. Was Walker just too dominant? Albert Pujols, another 3-time winner. Like Alex Rodriguez in the American League, 2 winning seasons for playoff clubs, and a third for team. His 2008 campaign resulted in the Cardinals finishing 4th in a 6-team division, 10 games over, but 11.5 back. He hit for a fantastic average, led baseball in total bases and slugging, and was above average in everything else. Chipper Jones, whose Braves finished 4th, took care of batting and on-base averages, though his total base count and RBI were low. Ryan Howard led the world in homers and RBI, but struggled with hitting and OBP. Is this another case of the award going to the biggest name? This exercise really is more a subjective opinion than having a hard stance on 1 or 2 or even 6 popular stat categories. Barry Bonds won a record 7 MVPs, yet his teams had exactly 1 World Series appearance. He was paid over $188 million during his 22-year career. What's the point of such big contracts? Do franchises just want fans to come out during the season to watch certain players hit or pitch, putting the idea of building a long-term winning team as secondary? Let's not even get into Bobby Bonilla and his $1 million a year Mets contract, which is still active until the year 2035. Should baseball follow the other major sports and have just 1 MVP? With so much interleague play nowadays, it seems fitting. Which of the previous players do you think really deserve to win their award? How do you feel about the MVP becoming the most popular award of late? Leave your comments below, and thanks for watching. Check out the companion video on this subject, featuring all the MVP winners from bad teams in the American League.